For whatever reason, the narrative on social media yesterday was that Starfield was going to come to PlayStation 5 sometime in the future, prompting Xbox executives to completely shut down that narrative. There's a lot here to talk about, so let's get into it. What is going on, everybody? It's Randall419, the man with the million, back again with another video. I hope everybody is having an excellent day. If you guys can do me a huge favor, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and please share this out on social media. I want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes that you guys gave me last week. And before we get into the big news of the day, I want to tell you guys about a brand new Xbox controller that's on the market. I want to give a big thank you to Turtle Beach for sponsoring today's video. A couple weeks ago, they sent me their brand new Recon controller to play around with, test, and give my thoughts on video. So what do I think about the Recon controller? Honestly, for its low $60 price point, this Recon controller is putting to shame some of the very more expensive premium controllers that run you $150 to $200 for very similar features. But first off, let's talk about the controller itself and the elephant in the room. Yes, it is wired. I don't normally do wired controllers, but the more I played with the Recon controller, the more I liked it. The controller itself feels really good to hold. The triggers are rubberized and are actually wider and longer than the standard Xbox triggers, but it's really these next features that set this controller apart from all the others. You can easily adjust the sensitivity of the thumbsticks. There's 4 different settings, so you can find the right one for your playstyle. It has 2 rear back buttons, allowing you to bind any button on the controller to the triggers on the back, which is something you find in more premium controllers. And it even has a feature, if you plug in any wired headset, you have quick access to changing the game in the chat, to volume, muting, and using Turtle Beach's signature audio equalizers like bass boost and superhuman hearing. It's a pretty damn impressive feature set they've packed into this controller. It's available right now for $60 in black and white. And if you're interested in learning more, make sure you click the link in the description below. Now, when I started this channel about 5 years ago, I never thought I would see the day said in the biggest font possible, Xbox exclusive. At that point, I thought this whole conversation about whether or not Starfield will show up on PlayStation 5 in some way completely over. Nobody was going to talk about it anymore. Microsoft showed their cards and they said, you know what? We're going to make this an exclusive to drive users to Xbox Game Pass and our platform. And I thought the conversation was completely dead. But of course, social media is the way it is, and people want to have hope that that next game from Bethesda is going to show up on PlayStation. And here we are talking about it yet again. I think the headline that Video Games Chronicle uses pretty much sums up everything. They go on to say that Bethesda and Xbox executives have stressed again that Starfield is an Xbox exclusive and will not be coming to any PlayStation console in the future. Bethesda's SVP of Global Marketing, Pete Hines, and Xbox's GM of Games Marketing, Aaron Greenberg, both took to Twitter to quell speculation after some of the things Hyde said during a Bethesda Gamescom stream were interpreted by some as a suggestion that Starfield could come to PS5 in the future. Now, here's the quote in the article that everybody was sharing yesterday online. A popular opinion among some was that this was proof that Bethesda was leaving the door open for games like Starfield and Redfall or Elder Scrolls 6 to come to PlayStation in the future, maybe in a timed exclusive deal, right? Quote, there are Xbox brands that exist on other platforms first and foremost. I think that's important to note. Minecraft didn't just stop existing on anything once Mojang got bought by Xbox, Hines said. Quote, it's a massively played game on all of these other platforms. It's not a, sorry, you're never going to get to play anything by Bethesda again. Certainly there are going to be things that you're not going to be able to play on PlayStation. Hines mentioned how Starfield was announced as an Xbox exclusive, but he also suggested that the door might not be shut entirely on Bethesda's games coming to PlayStation in some capacity. Quote, Starfield, it was announced as a thing that's an Xbox exclusive. I don't know if I would go so far as to say you're done ever playing stuff on PlayStation, but again, I don't know the answer to that right now. And this is where editorializing becomes a huge thing, because the second paragraph is basically the author's interpretation of what Pete Hines is talking about, and that paragraph is the reason why everybody on Twitter was talking about Starfield in the first place, because this author thought Pete Hines was essentially not shutting the door on the idea of Starfield or future Bethesda games heading to PlayStation, even though he says, I don't know if I would go so far as to say you're done playing stuff on PlayStation. Clearly, what he's talking about in this situation is stuff like the Quake remaster, which was just announced at QuakeCon, coming to literally every platform, Xbox, PlayStation, the Nintendo Switch, and PC. Also at QuakeCon, they announced the Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which is also coming to PlayStation. So there are future Bethesda titles that will hit PlayStation 5, but that shouldn't surprise anybody, because during the Bethesda roundtable, Phil Spencer talked about this. He said that there are going to be some games that come to other platforms, legacy titles, contracts that they have to honor, like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, exclusives that are essentially coming out on PlayStation because Microsoft didn't want to break the contract. So they can't come out and say, you're done forever playing Bethesda games on PlayStation, because that's simply not the case. But in the case of Starfield, it has been made pretty damn clear that you won't see the game on PlayStation ever, really, or could you? So that article started to make the rounds on Twitter, and people were seriously saying, hey, you know what, this confirms that Starfield will head to PlayStation down the road. That is what Pete Hines is suggesting, and they had to come out on Twitter to basically stomp this whole narrative into the dirt. A user asked Pete Hines, hey, Uncle Pete, were you suggesting that? Didn't seem like you and Aaron Greenberg were, but it looks like it needs some clarification, to which Pete Hines says, no, that isn't what I was suggesting, responding with the classic meme gif of I'm literally grasping at straws, which honestly is 100% true. That is what a lot of people were doing. They're literally grasping at straws, hoping that Pete's suggestion that you're not done playing Bethesda games on PlayStation means something like Starfield, because everybody knows Starfield is going to be one of those big, huge AAA single-player games. And PlayStation guys, even though they'll say, oh, Bethesda sucks now, and I'm not interested in it, they want that game on their system, and it bothers them to no end that all the big Bethesda games in the future, like Redfall and Elder Scrolls 6 and whatever else comes out from id Software and all those different studios, will never show up on PlayStation, potentially. I'll explain in a minute. Aaron Greenberg got into the action by saying that Starfield will be launching exclusively on the Xbox Series X and S and PC on November 11, 2022. Game Pass members can play it day one as well on Xbox and PC. I know we have said this all before, and none of that has or will change. But even that tweet from Aaron Greenberg wasn't not say Starfield will never come to PlayStation or their games will never stop coming to PlayStation. Is simply because of what Phil Spencer said at the Bethesda Roundtable, that you can expect all the Bethesda games to be on platforms where Game Pass exists. And we know for a fact that Microsoft wants to put Game Pass on the PlayStation 5. And sure, it's not going to happen this year, but who knows what will happen 5 to 10 years from now. Nobody thought that Sony would ever allow crossplay when we entered last generation, and yet most of the big games that do come out feature crossplay. Nobody thought that Sony would allow their games to come to PC, their first-party huge games like Horizon Zero Dawn or Death Stranding to come to PC, and yet they're coming to PC. Companies' policies and objectives change all the time, so while Sony may not want Game Pass today, they might want Game Pass in the future. So Microsoft, Pete Hines, Aaron Greenberg, they don't want to back themselves into a corner and say Starfield or whatever will never come to PlayStation, because if they can convince PlayStation to put Game Pass on the PlayStation 5, well then Starfield will show up on it. But that, my friends, is a discussion for another time in the future. But right now, Aaron Greenberg, Pete Hines shutting down the narrative that Starfield is a timed exclusive for Xbox. It's a full exclusive. If you want to play Starfield, my friends, you're either going to have to play it on Xbox or on a PC. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you do. Please share this out on social media like Twitter or Facebook. Hit that notification bell if you always want to be notified whenever I drop a new video like this. If you want to support the channel even further, you can always hit the join button where you will get access to channel badges and emotes for the Xbox 2 podcast we do every single week with Jez Corden from Windows Central. Thank you guys so much for watching the video and supporting everything I do. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.